You're listening to What It's Like with Luce, a podcast highlighting ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'm your host, Lucy Norris, and on this week's episode, I chat with co-founder of Eathos Café and director of operations at Ireland's premium catering company With Taste. From working her way up in the family business to opening the doors of her very own health food haven, this entrepreneur has cracked the code to having your cake and eating it too, quite literally. Here's what it's like to be Lisa Murrin. So welcome, Lisa. Thanks so much for coming on today.
No problem.
I think we'll just start off by kind of going all the way back to the beginning and maybe chatting a little bit about your relationship with food from when you were younger.
Okay.
Like, I know you're very into healthy eating, and kind of how did that come about?
Okay, so I suppose if we're going to go right back to the very beginning, kind of food and the food industry has always been a very big part of my life. My dad and his whole family have been involved in the food industry since, they started to work. So we're talking, 50, 60 years ago, they've been in the food industry. So my dad had two sisters and his mum, and they were all very heavily involved in the food industry. And my dad has had various companies, food cafes, everything like that throughout the years, and then himself and his oldest sister started With Taste, and that was 35 years ago, so we're 35 years in business this year. And from that, obviously there was loads of opportunities for me when I became the age where I was able to work, but I was 13 working, but when you're a family business, you're allowed to do that. And so I kind of started working in With Taste when I was 13, and I kind of worked in all of the different departments throughout, summer holidays or Easter holidays and stuff. And so Christmas in our house, everything that we did revolved around food. It still does, to this day. It's like at Christmas when people would be, I always joke, when people would be sitting around playing games or anything like that at Christmas, my aunties and my nana would be teaching us how to do napkin folds and to carry trays of wine properly, and how to open a bottle and how to pour. And this is from 10, 11. And so it's always just kind of been very much so part of my absolute norm. So it felt very natural to jump into the food industry. I suppose when I was 16, at the point where you're in school and transition year and you kind of decide where you want to go for your leaving cert, I was between childcare and midwifery and food. And then in fourth year, my auntie who owned With Taste passed away from cancer, and I kind of was a little bit more involved in the company at that time. And then I decided, no, that's definitely where I wanted to go. I wanted to follow in her footsteps, and I wanted to kind of make her proud and do all of that. So that's kind of why I decided. I went from fourth year in school. I kind of decided from 16 on if food was going to be where I put my time and energy. So after school, I went and studied culinary arts in DIT. So I did a 4-year degree while also working the equivalent of full-time in With Taste, just because I loved it. And although I loved college, I liked college, I wanted to just work. I wanted to be in the industry. I wanted to get the experience that you don't get in college. It's easy to sit in a lecture, and it's easy for them to show you how to fillet a fish in the kitchens in college, but for me it wasn't real. I loved being in our kitchens here, making food for the masses of people that we were doing functions for, and it was so exciting. So I was happy that the 4-year degree was over and that I could just focus full time on working. So I suppose I worked 4 or 5 years after I finished college purely as a chef. Now, I never wanted to be a chef. Okay. I just wanted to gain as much knowledge and experience around food as I possibly could. So I went and I did 5 years here, between here and some of our venues, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then after that, I decided that, for a lot of different reasons, being a chef, women and being a chef, and it doesn't always work out that way, especially if I know my long-term plan was to have a family and all of that stuff, so I knew that it wasn't going to work. So I came back out, and I had worked in all of the different departments, and operations was one of the areas where I really loved. Just, you're out at events, you're learning, it's invaluable what you can learn in an operational role for events. And my dad's other sister, Marie, who's unfortunately also passed away since, she taught me everything I know about operations, and she was just incredible. Like, her attention to detail was just like, you couldn't have learned from somebody better. So I learned everything from her, and then I decided to just kind of stay in operations. So that's kind of where I am now, and now I'm a director of operations in the overall business.
I guess from what I'm picking up in that story is you've always had kind of that extra drive to have that practical hands-on experience.
Yeah, I think especially in this industry, it's an extremely hard industry to work in. Hospitality is, anyone will say, that's why we're finding it so hard these days to find people to be chefs, to be front of house, because people don't see it as a career anymore. It's very hard, long hours, the pay isn't great for, the typical commie chefs or people that are just working front of house. So it's about trying to find people who love what they do, and then people who can also do a little bit of everything. So for me, when I was 17 or 18, I remember so vividly the people who taught me, including my aunties, they taught me that don't ask somebody to do something that you won't do yourself. And that has stuck with me, and it's something I go by every day. So if I'm at a function and we are, in trouble because we're running behind on something or we've run out of glasses, I've always done it, and I will, no problem. You have to be willing to do absolutely everything, and that can be washing glasses. When years ago I'd be downstairs washing glasses in a bucket to try get them turned around and back out again. So you have to have respect for everybody that works for you, right down to the porter who is cleaning the floor and cleaning, and you have to be willing to do all of that stuff too. So for me, I have a great team here, and I don't mind asking people to do things because I know that they know that I have done all of those things, and that I am not asking them because I don't want to do it. I'm asking them because I need a bit of help at that time, and that's kind of where we're at. And I really think that is something that I try and instill into everybody as well, that don't just get stuck in, like, yes, hospitality is like, it's everything. So if you can just kind of get a little bit better knowledge of food and service and the whole hospitable part of people, then at the end of the day, it's about the customer. It's about supporting. My dad always says you have to support the customer or support somebody who supports the customer, and we go by that. So I'd say to everyone, if we're out at a function, you don't stand there and watch somebody else do something if you can help. So we try to instill that right down to our staff that are working on like functions and everything like that. So yeah, I suppose the drive, I have drive in me. I think I'm a driven person, but I would have had drive in probably anything that I went to do, just because that's how I am as a person. But I'm very glad that I found my footing in the food industry.
Why did you decide to kind of go down the chef route first rather than straight into maybe more like managerial roles or director of operations kind of thing?
I think I decided that with college and the chefing piece, I love food and I love everything to do with food, and I really wanted to get a deeper understanding of food and have the basic skills, like knife skills. Like, they're invaluable, and people mightn't think it, but they're absolutely invaluable. Like, to chop veg, to be able to fillet a fish, to be able to cut a raw chicken, a full carcass the right way. They're things that will stay with you forever, and they have stayed with me forever. So for me, it was about trying to learn as much about food as I could, while being able to have the experience here of With Taste. I've been able to, at the weekends, come and do front of house. Every summer I worked in a different department. So one summer I did HR, one summer I did accounts, one summer I did events, one summer I did operations. And after maybe 5 or 6 years, I always felt that I was going to go back to operations, because I just feel like it's where you can put all of your skills into one role. So just to say just about With Taste, so With Taste is it's the largest Indigenous, which is Irish-owned company, catering company in Ireland, obviously. And we employ up to kind of 600 to 800 people at our busiest time of the year.
Wow, okay.
So we have probably 50 to 60 full-time people we have 2 offices, one here where we are here. This is our culinary centre, and then we've got another office over in the URDS. And between those, we've got all of our ground staff, so, HR and accounts and all of those people. And then after that, we have the equivalent of probably 200 to 300 full-time people between here where we are, and as well the URDS and our other venues. So we look after all of the catering in the URDS. So we do the horse show every year, and we have had that contract for 12 years now, and we look after all of the catering in the Mansion House in Dublin. And we look after everything in the National Concert Hall as well. So there are kind of main venues, and then we also are on a panel for the likes of Dublin Castle and Farmley and a lot of state departments. So at our busiest time of year, which would be the horse show or Bloom, we do Bloom in the Park, where the caterers with Board Bia, we work with them. We would employ up to 600 to 800 people across the 5 days, which is insane. But it's an incredible experience to be able to be part of those events. But when the recession hit, that was very hard for any business. But any small to medium, like we are, Irish owned family business, it was hard to stay afloat at that time. And my dad, although he's not directly involved in the day-to-day running of With Taste, he has a management team which I'm part of. He has his own businesses. His aim for us was just to keep people in jobs. So at that time, it wasn't about chasing business, and it wasn't about trying to be better and better and better, because we had a very good reputation. It was about keeping the people, our core team that we have, in jobs, and been able to give them the security and safety during those really tough years that they had a job to go to every single day. So we did that for that period of time, and now thankfully we came out of the recession in the last couple of years, and we're starting to see a right shift in corporate activity again, which is really, really good for the business. And we're starting to kind of be able to chase again, because people are spending again, which is very good for any business. But for us, it's a huge plus, because all of our employees stuck with us throughout that very tough time, and now we're able to kind of give a bit back, and we're kind of seeing the morale and everything go back around again, which is obviously a plus. So yeah,
it sounds like you guys have really worked hard to cultivate that kind of loyalty amongst the ranks, I guess, which sounds really nice.
No, and that's one of the biggest things for us here. We have a thing, it's called, obviously it's With Taste is the company here, but it was called, since my auntie founded the company, it's called the With Taste Way. And it's just how we do things, and I like to think especially that we're a nice company to work for, and that our employees feel safe here and they feel happy, and we have a very good working relationship with everybody. Even through tough times, we all, go head to head. Of course we do. We're all human, and it's a tough industry when we're busy too. But we navigate through that.
Alongside all of your work with Taste,
yes.
How did Ethos come about? Because I can't imagine you had any time to work on that.
So I suppose when I was in operations, I was working mainly in one of our venues at the time, and this was during the recession. So we were always looking for high street concepts and ideas, and I did my work experience from college. I did my work experience in London. And then I went and I travelled to loads of different European countries, because I absolutely love just kind of doing food tours and going around and seeing what's going on and all of that stuff. And it's so good just to keep yourself kind of ahead of the game all of the time. And we sat down and we worked through some concepts with the management team and a wider team as well of incredibly talented people that work with us every day here. And we started to write down concepts on paper, what we thought Dublin was missing at that time, what we felt Dublin needed, and what we felt maybe was going to come around, or what was happening in other countries that we weren't doing yet. And just part of our family company as well, our family business, which my dad owns, is Fire Restaurant on Dawson Street.
Oh, I love it.
And Soul Restaurant, it's a seafood restaurant on South William Street. So that's part of the family business, but it's completely separately run by a team of people, a team of incredible people. So with Ethos, I always suffered from gut issues since I was probably 12 or 13, and I had a lot of food intolerances. So to the normal, when I was 13, I had food intolerances. I started getting them to wheat, to dairy, to the typical things, eggs and everything. But I found that there was nowhere that I could go eat in Dublin without feeling sick, and that was nothing wrong with those places, but just I couldn't. At that time, people didn't even know what gluten was, you know, and we're
Yeah.
talking, you know, 10 years ago, 10, 12, 15 years ago maybe. And so I kind of was going, you know, when I was in London, I used to go out to these places and I was like, I can eat this fresh food that doesn't make me feel sick, that, you know, it's made on the day for the day and all of this stuff. So I was kind of coming home and I said to my dad, no, I'm telling you, like, there's places I visited in Berlin and in Amsterdam and in London, and they're way ahead of the mark. Like, they're making simple, fresh food on the day for the day, no preservatives, no nothing. Like, we have to be able to do something like this because there was nowhere in Dublin that was doing it. There was one place that had opened years before, but then they closed. So really, there was nowhere that I was going. Like, Chopped, nothing was open at that time that was offering that. So we knew, because our price point in Ethos is not like low, but we knew that at the time where the recession was happening, we knew it wasn't the right time to open Ethos. It wasn't viable. It wasn't going to work at that time because people didn't have that money to spend on their lunch every day or their food. So we kind of worked on it, and then as we were coming out of the recession, we had been looking for properties across Dublin and throughout that whole time, and we found where we are now on Upper Bagot Street. We always get confused, like you, but Upper Bagot Street. So we found that, and we kind of went. So we decided this was the time that we felt, and that's 5 years ago. In this year, it's 5 years ago. So we're open 5 years. Yeah, 5 years this year. And that's, I suppose, what it is about Ethos for us is providing fresh, healthy, and wholesome food that's made on the day for the day, and that people go away feeling good after. That's the aim of the game for us. And that we provide a good service and a consistent service, and that every single person that walks in the door will come back. And if they don't come back, then we know why, and then we can try and improve on that. And I'm so open to, like, I love feedback, and we're very lucky that we get very positive feedback. Even on our online presence is very positive throughout our social media channels, and any of the review sites, it is positive. But I always welcome, if somebody does have an issue, I'll always open into a conversation. I like getting feedback, and I think we can always be better. And you're only as good as your last meal, and you're only as good as your last coffee that you put out. And you need to remember that when you're in the hospitality industry, because just never get too complacent or comfortable. So yeah, that's what we do. And then since we opened Ethos 1, it took us probably, I think my dad, what he will say that he found the premises for Ethos 2 probably 3 years ago, but it was in works at the time and there was a plan for it. So we opened Ethos 2 on Lower Bagot Street. It's only 700 metres away. This time last year. So this week last year we opened it. So we're a year open now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, everything is going well. We're steadily and slowly growing, which is what we want. You want slow and steady wins the race instead of a hype and then it all goes down. So yeah, we've been slow and steady since we opened 5 years ago, and everything is going the way we want it to go. And it's just about keeping our heads down and staying focused on what we're doing. So yeah, that's where Ethos came from.
I feel like maybe it's kind of unusual to have 2 locations on the same street.
Yes.
So was there a reason for that, or?
It was very okay. So it was done on purpose, absolute purpose. There's certain areas that we feel that Ethos will work. Dublin 2 and Dublin 4 are 2 of the areas that we really, really wanted, and although they are so close, one is Dublin 4 and one is Dublin 2.
Okay.
When we originally opened Eathos, I think Eathos, where we have our second cafe, that would have been our dream first location. That's what we were looking for at the time, and we were looking at the Marion Row. That's where we really wanted to open our first one, and then there just nothing came up at that time that we were looking for a location. So we ended up going to Upper Bagot Street, and then when the opportunity came for Lower Bagot Street, we would have been mad not to take it. It's an incredible place to be. There's lots of new office buildings opening this year and into the next 18 months, where there's going to be 3,000 more people that are going to be footfall on the street, that are going to be looking for somewhere to eat. So this was all in our plan, and we know that. And I know that some people probably think, God, like, they're so close to each other, but we know what our 5-year plan is, and we know what's going to be opening up around. And also on the lower, where our second cafe is, there isn't actually as much competition. There's and we love competition because competition is healthy for everyone. It brings more footfall to the street, so it's good. Competition is great. But when we opened 5 years ago on Upper Bagot Street, I'm going to say that we were probably number 17 on the street of food or coffee, let's say, food or coffee to go. And 5 years later, I think the number now is 36 food places on the street.
That's a lot.
So it's a huge increase.
Yeah.
But then on the lower end, there isn't actually as much choice. So it made sense for us. And it's funny, although the one on Upper Bagot Street is close enough to town, we actually weren't able to tap into so many people because they were kind of saying, I really want to come up, but it's just a tiny bit too far to me to go to on my lunch break to get back to the office. So now we've got that whole, obviously, the one on Lower Bagot Street is closer to Stephen's Green, Earlsford Terrace. So lots of people that never got to come to us before are now coming to us every day for lunch, which is brilliant. So we've been able to grasp a wider audience, and that was the aim of the game for us. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that's so interesting and compelling with Ethos, for me anyway, was like the aesthetic as well.
Yeah.
Because I went to college in close enough to London, so I was used to seeing all those kind of really cool cafes.
Yeah.
And then like you were saying, we have more now, but we didn't really have that many in Dublin.
Yeah.
How did you kind of conceptualize the whole thing down to kind of how you were going to display things and like the aesthetic?
Well, I suppose you've been in London and you study there, so you can see like there is a minefield of places like Eathos that offer that like fresh offering that is out on the counter, that's proteins and salads. And obviously one of my biggest inspirations throughout college when I went to London was Otto Lengi, because I'm all things obsessed with everything that he does. I think he's an incredible chef, and I followed his journey when I went over there. And I suppose when I went over and did my work experience, you're 19, like I was 19. So it was also new to me. And I remember every single day after I finished work, I was in Fortnum and Mason over in London. I used to go to Otto Lengi and just sit and just be like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. Like I couldn't even grasp how somebody could make ingredients taste that good. You know, I was just besotted by it. And that's when I came home. That was one of the places. Now there's loads more places like Otto Lengi now in London. But I said, like, we definitely could do something exactly like that offers the proteins, the cold proteins, keep it really simple, cold proteins, cold seasonal salads made with fresh seasonal ingredients. And then I suppose one thing at that time, because I think he had 3 or 4 cafes at the time in London, he wasn't really doing breakfast or brunch at that time because he didn't have some of his restaurants he has now. We wanted to introduce the breakfast brunch offering because that was becoming, obviously it's so big in, like, I follow so many restaurants and cafes in New Zealand, Australia, and the brunch scene, I knew it was about to hit here. You know, when we opened Eathos, I remember talking to the chefs here and I was like, we have to do an acai bowl. And they were like, what is an acai bowl? And I was like, just trust me. I was like, just trust me. And then I was like, I think we should do avocado smash on toast. They were like, what? And I was like, please work with me here. And I wasn't in the kitchen at the time. So what happens usually with the Ethos menu is I would kind of go on to every different cafe you can imagine, like I mean hundreds online, and I kind of go, oh God, that sounds really cool, like that sounds really, and then I'll put them all on paper, I'll put my twist on what that sounds like, and then I'll give it to our development chef here, Chris, who's incredible, and he will look at this, he'll then put his twist on what I've written on paper, then I'll go into the kitchen with him for a day, we will tweak and change and taste, and it's brilliant, but that's how we work, that's how it goes. So I kind of write down on paper what I think the Ethos menu for the next 6 months is going to look like. He then puts his twist on it because he's in the kitchen every single day, and then we both work together and kind of go, no, that definitely doesn't work, or yes, I really like that, or yes, that's going to work, or yes, our customers in Ethos are going to like that because I know our customer base so well. And then we do tasting after tasting after tasting to make sure that we can keep the consistency straight. And then we bring our full team from Ethos here out to the Culinary Centre. They come out here, and we have that now on the 16th of this month. So we've got our new menu coming in. They'll come out here. We do a full display of what the new menu looks like. Everybody tastes, we get right into what the ingredients are, because a lot of our food is dietary, like we cater for gluten-free, dairy-free, vegans, everything. And we're not a dietary requirement restaurant by any means, but we like to think that we can cater for everybody. Like you see our full patisserie, we have a full pastry team downstairs here that create and come up with all of those different things. And today, like I'll go down after this today, and we're going to do tastings on all of the stuff. And you tweak and change things a million times before it becomes what you think it's going to be or what will work. And so yeah, that's kind of like, oh yeah, and then like obviously the look and feel. For me, I love white, and you probably see it now. You come out to with taste, like everything is pretty, like plain enough, because I like that. I like it's a blank canvas, and I think we've had this kind of look and feel for years and years here, and then I was like, follow that through to Ethos, because I wanted everything to be plain, and then the only things that were going to tell a story was our food, which was the colour, because our food is colourful. We had loads of different names at the time, and then we all kind of sat down and we whittled it down. And then we were thinking, obviously, food for thought we liked, because our what we say is ethos. Food is food for thought, so it makes you think about what you're eating and food and everything. And obviously, the ethos of any business is so important. And then we were like, well, let's try a take on ethos, and then do the eat and then thos, and that's kind of where all of that came from. And yeah, it's stood the test of time. We're only open 5 years. We hope to be open for many more years to come. We're not here for the short run. We're here for the long run, and we hope to have another. I think we're kind of saying that this is probably a 3 cafe concept in our eyes. Okay. And we have loads of other concepts that we're working on behind the scenes, because nothing happens overnight, and you want to make sure that you've the right market for it at the right time, and that all of that stuff. So yeah, we're working away on concepts, but we probably will, hopefully, if we can find the right location at the right time, then we will have a 3rd ethos, and that is the aim of the game for us here. So mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you know where you want to put the 3rd ethos yet?
Only 200 metres away from those. I'm joking. But to be honest, it'll probably surprise people, but actually within the same type of area. People always are on, oh, will you open in Rathmines or Ranelagh? And an ethos probably would work in a Rathmines or a Ranelagh, or maybe a Templeogue, or like this. But I think that we would probably end up, if we could even get closer again to town, mm-hmm. You would probably do that. Yeah. Whether it was a small unit and we did like takeout only, or something, did a twist on what we're doing already. But the whole aim for us with Ethos is consistency. So people will say, well, you have 2 cafes 700 metres away from each other with the exact same thing. And I'm like, yes. Well, I'm like, that's exactly what it's meant to be. Consistent. Yeah. Like, I don't want it to be anything different. I like what we do in Ethos 1, so we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We want it to be the same in Ethos 2 and just reach more people. And with our new concepts that will hopefully come down the line, then we can do all of those other things that we've been working on. And there's lots in the pipeline. So yeah.
Is there ever a worry that potentially, because the industry is like growing, because not always for the right reasons, I think sometimes it can be turned into a bit of a trend. Yeah. But do you ever worry about kind of an oversaturation of the typical like health cafe and how it will impact on your business?
I think it was something that we were very mindful of opening Ethos. So what we try to do in Ethos, if you look at the menu, so you can go to Ethos, and what we wanted to cater for was somebody who wanted to come in with a group of 6 people, and one person had dietary requirements, one person was not health conscious at all, or just it wasn't part of their day-to-day life, so they could have our Ethos style full Irish, which has everything on it that you would want. We just do it in a little bit of a different way. Then you've got the person who knows what an acai bowl is because they've been to America or Brazil, and we've lots of Brazilians working for us, and they say it's not exactly what they have at home, but it's
close
still
enough.
Very good. And they're big critics, and then the person who didn't want brunch or breakfast or salads or protein at all, and they wanted to come in and indulge with patisserie and coffee. So for us, like our windows are full of patisserie. It's nothing healthy about them. There's nothing and there's not meant to be. It's meant to be indulgent. So I believe that we have the full circle of an offering that shouldn't take us out of the hype of a fad or something that is going to come and go, because we have the full windows of patisserie. I do try my best to stay ahead of the trends of what's coming around the corner and everything like that. I do try my best to like look and what's going on, and we're not really into fads. And probably when we did open 5 years ago, people were kind of going, God, you know, the acai bowl, and I go back to it just because we joke about it all the time, but it hasn't gone away. It's one of our most popular, still to this day, it's one of our most popular dishes. So is the avocado smash. I feel that we have got the customer base there, that they're not just going to go away. They're loyal customers to us. And we use 3FE coffee. We were one of the first cafes at the time to join the 3FE. They were only really going into the cafes 5 years ago, and so we were one of the very first, and we were delighted to work with 3FE. They're a great team to work with, and it's a very good product. And we use Nick's teas for our tea, which is an Irish tea as well. And I feel that if you've got consistent good product and good service, and you consistently give that, then even if the fads come and go, you should be able to stay strong, I believe. And that has stood to us in the last 5 years. We haven't noticed dips or drops in business. We have steadily grown over the last 5 years, and we're continuing to grow, obviously, with our second cafe, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. So no, I don't think it will impact our business, because we will do whatever we need to do as well to stay absolutely above. And we do have the machine, which is amazing, of With Taste here behind us to support Ethos all the time. When we opened our second cafe, loads of people came in, and you know the look and feel of Ethos. It's very like clean and crisp, and you know.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, but some people actually were very intimidated by it.
Really?
Yeah, and we get this all of the time.
Oh,
and
why?
they're like, oh yeah, like I kind of just didn't want to go in because it all just looks too perfect.
Oh.
Okay, and so you kind of have to take that as that's lovely. But then I never wanted it to be intimidating. We just wanted to create something that was really lovely for people to come into. And then the other comment that has been a learning for me is people actually think that Ethos is like corporate owned, is like maybe one of the, you know, that it's another one of the press up restaurants.
Yeah, okay.
It's funny. And I've learned this in the last year or two. And so my brother, he works in Ethos too. It's like very much so family. Everything we do, I write the menus. Peter works there every day. We work with the incredible team here in Ethos and in With Taste to create what we're doing. It's so family. Every single thing that happens is I have to sit with my dad, so does Peter, so does the team here, and we need to go through absolutely everything with a fine-tooth comb to make sure we're as a family business that we're happy to put out what we're doing. And Peter tries to tell that story every single day in Ethos to the customers, because we're really, it's funny, we didn't think that at all. And then the more and more people come in and go, oh God, I didn't realise. Once Peter would say, oh, it's actually our family business, they'd go, it's a family business. And you go, yeah. And they think that it's this big corporate owned cafe that's just another nice fit out and, you know, pretty looking food, but they don't want to come in and taste it because they're a little bit intimidated by it. So it's something that we are definitely trying to break down the barriers there and trying to learn our way to tell the story, because we don't really put it out there a lot that on Ethos, like you've done your research, so you knew it was. You looked at my Instagram and saw, okay, With Taste, Ethos, family. I talk about it on my personal page. Yeah. But we don't really tell the story on Ethos. So we're just trying to figure out the best way to tell the story too. Because we do have, like, probably over our platforms, we have about 20,000 people watching what we do every day. Yeah. It's about trying to tell them the story that's still in line with what our story is. You know, it's a funny one, but I was very surprised to hear so many people think that, because I suppose because I'm so involved and Peter is so involved as well, and my dad is, and the team here, we just presume that everyone knew it was a family business, but they definitely don't, you know. So it's just, that's definitely been a learning for me. So yeah,
I guess you could also take it on the flip side as a compliment, because it's like so well polished that people,
and I kind of do, but I think people think, you know, maybe, oh, but you go by and all the patisseries in the window and the perfect flowers, but I'm like, but that's so on purpose. Yeah, like that was all on purpose. You know, we work with incredible florists, Thomas and Floral Events, who's Irish as well, and it's his company, and it's about supporting Irish businesses, and that's what we do. So every element of what we do, where my dad buys all of the antiques from, Irish, everything we're trying to do. We have a provenance board where we use Irish produce, like where we can. Obviously there's some things that are not Irish and we want to use ingredients, but we use Irish where possible, and we try support Irish where possible. And it's about, when people, I think, look at the flowers and they've got this budget that they spend on those flowers, I'm like, no, that's me sitting with Thomas every week going, what will we do for the next 6 months, and can you work with me on that and then, and it's about us all working together. Well, people probably just perceive it as, oh look, that's so pretty, and the big fit out that they have, and and it's just, we don't just spend money on a fit out. We look at the 10-year plan and say, okay, yes, this is going to be expensive now to have our Korean, because all of our tables and our counters are Korean, which is a very expensive fit out to have. But we know Korean equals longevity, and we don't plan to go anywhere. So let's spend the money now.
I think as well, it'd be interesting to know, kind of throughout your whole career, what is the biggest challenge you faced?
So this is probably, this is more of a personal one, and it's something I've only learned. So I have 3 little boys, and they're under 2.5. So I have twin boys, and I have a 9-month-old baby as well. And I think when I came out of college, I was a go-getter. I was so used to, I love work. I still do. I eat, sleep, drink, breathe. And I was so used to doing those 14, 16-hour days, not all the time, but when it needed to be done. And I had no issue with doing it. I still do, but I jump out of bed at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, off I go. Loved it, come home, go to bed, buzzing from it. Such a big buzz. But obviously, until you're a mum or a parent, you don't know what that's going to bring. And I thought, and I was pregnant with the twins first, so I thought, I'm going to be back in work in 3 months, no problem, I can do it all, because you don't know what you don't know. And when I had the boys, it was obviously a massive, massive learning for me. And I probably I did jump back into work far too soon. Because everyone around me was there. I have the incredible people that I work with here, and they're so supportive in everything I do. And they were like, "No, but Lisa, you need to take your time." And I was going, "No, I'll be back. I'm going to be back." And I did. I jumped back in, and it was detrimental to my own mental health. And that was a massive struggle at that time. And then obviously getting pregnant again so soon. But this is what women in the workplace face every single day. And I'm very lucky that I have an understanding team, and this is my family business, so flexibility is there. But that has been a huge learning for me of how to balance, how to be me, because I love who I am in work, but also be a mum to the boys and give them my absolute all as well. To be able to balance it all in a way. I've always suffered with anxiety and panic attacks since I was young. It's something that I'm not afraid to talk about, and I think it's important to talk about. I've always been very open. And I think suffering from anxiety as well as having children in the workplace, when you're in a high enough role in your workplace, and you have teams around you, you have people that look up to you, you have people that are. I had a massive feeling of guilt all the time that I wasn't doing enough, because now I have a family and I need to look after them, but they are priority. They're my number one priority. But work is also such a high priority, and the struggle of I'm still navigating it massively. But again, that has been probably one of the biggest learning curves for me in business.
And also, in contrast to that,
yes,
what does success mean to you?
I think success can mean different things to everybody, obviously. But for me, it's happiness, but it's happiness from within. I'm not driven by money. Money definitely doesn't drive me, and I think anybody that works in family businesses would probably tell you the same. If you're a family member in that business, money is not the driver for you. It's not for me. I love making people happy, and when I feel people come together in a positive way in whatever you do, that gets to the core of me, and I feel like that was a success. And that can be a day, a year, or anything. So if I have a good work day and I feel that I have changed someone's day a little bit, like anybody on my team, if they come in to bounce something off me and I'm able to help them a little bit, or I'm able to help them navigate through their issues or anything like that, I go away that day going, I did the best I could today. And that's where my success comes from. Yes, you can have you can have awards, you can have and there's lots of things we haven't even talked about today, and I'm so proud of what we do here in With Taste. Like, we catered for the Queen when she came over in 2000. And
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
That's massive, and it's one of our most prestigious things we've done. We looked after Prince Harry and Meghan when they came over a few months ago, where they were actually staying in the house. We were brought in to look after everything. So there's lots of different things that obviously I could say, well, that's success. And that is in one right, that you're chosen to do those things, those prestigious things. But for me, it's actually the day-to-day, and it's minding your people. So I feel like success for me is going home happy every day from within, knowing that the team around you and the people that work for you are happy too.
And then my final question for you today, I ask this to everyone.
Yeah.
So if you put yourself back in your 10-year-old shoes, from where you're sitting now today, what's the biggest piece of advice you'd give yourself?
In my 10-year-old, I would say to surround yourself with like-minded people and to not be too hard on yourself. I say this in everything that I do, but just comparison is the thief of joy, and do not compare. I'm just like, no matter what, and that's my personal life, me as a mum, me as a director of operations, me as a manager in Ethos, me as a team leader, me as anything. Don't compare. And I don't, because it can literally, you could be feeling so happy in 1 minute, and then you compare yourself and it can be literally ripped from you for no reason. So don't compare, because it is the thief of joy. So that's kind of, if I could have those, and people did, but I think if I could have listened more to the people around me, I think it would have helped me in my younger years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me today. I really enjoyed
chatting to you, Lucy. Thanks a million for having me.
Thank you so much for listening, and as always, please don't forget to share, comment and rate this podcast if you like what you hear. I'll be back next week chatting to more inspiring individuals, but for now, this has been What It's Like with Luce.